So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us on the latter half of day 2. This is maximizing your sustainer program using all of your tools in your toolbox. And as I mentioned earlier, there is no PowerPoint. There's a couple chairs still up here if folks want to join. There's 2 there, 1 here. Because this is definitely a discussion, right? Like, I want to hear what you guys are doing, what's been working, what you want to do on the wish list but haven't had a chance to try yet. Also, what hasn't worked. Those who don't know me didn't hear my intro in the panel this morning at the keynote. I'm Brenna Holmes. I'm the VP of Digital at CCAH. I started our digital department there about 10 years ago. We are a 30-plus-year-old direct response consulting company, starting in direct mail and then telemarketing and mobile and digital as the decades went on and channel preferences changed. And so we help our nonprofit clients to maximize their direct response programs, mainly like the annual giving kind of low-dollar direct response, but for some clients we also do planned giving and mid-level giving solicitations across channels. So sustainers are huge. Everybody wants them. Sometimes it feels like a harder nut to crack than other times, but obviously it is a reliable source of unrestricted income 9 times out of 10, right? So we wanted to use this session to kind of talk through what's working for acquisition, what's working for retention, how you're doing upgrades, and then of course how you can leverage engaging networks to continue that growth, because digital is the best way to keep and get and keep sustainers. Telemarketing is still a very strong acquisition source, and especially for upgrades, that is, I think, still the best channel out there for that. Direct mail is real hard, though some people are doing it, and it's like a game of inches no matter what. But yeah, so I am happy to start off with just any questions that folks have to kind of guide this conversation however you want. That's most important to me, is that you guys are actually getting something of value here, and we can start from there. So yeah.
To your point, you were just talking about how hard it is, the inches, right, as you're moving direct mail. Do you know what the numbers are in terms of percentage of keeping monthly sustainers on the different types of channels, like DM versus direct mail and digital?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the retention rates will vary organization by organization. On average, we see sustainers staying on the file for approximately 3 years. That tends to be higher with telemarketing acquired sustainers, lower for online acquired. We're kind of flighty in the digital space sometimes, and even lower for direct mail, especially if you're doing check sustainers still. But the kind of good rule of thumb is 3 years on file. And for any acquisition source, sustainer or otherwise, we really are looking to return on investment in 18 to 24 months. So using those kind of benchmarks to calculate your return on investment, the time to break even, how much you're willing to invest in a sustainer, also your average gift, all that fun stuff. Yeah. Anybody else? So I'll talk a little bit about some of the things. We talked about marketing automation this morning, which is fantastic for sustainer recruitment. Things like triggering emails across are based off of most recent action or most recent gift. Is anybody doing invite emails in an automated fashion right now for sustainers? What's your logic? You want to share?
I would have to look into it, but
Okay.
It's based on recency of last gift.
Yeah. So what we've seen with clients that is actually within the first 30 to 60 days of that gift is the prime time to ask for that sustainer upgrade or that sustainer invite for them to upgrade their giving to become a sustainer. And that's something that you can easily split test in the marketing automation funnels too, is that timing of what's that wait period from that one-time gift transaction to when you're asking them to become a sustainer. I have some clients that are seeing successes as fast as 48 hours later, which is aggressive. But it's definitely, if you look at your current data, even without sustainer programs, what is your time to second gift on average? So you have your inception gift from prospecting, however they first made that, when they first made that gift on the file. How long does it take them to make that second gift? The majority of organizations do see around 12 months, but you'll see certain segments, if you dig in closer, that are shorter. Looking at that content and that timing will help you craft your testing plan to even improve that, and then craft it for sustainer invites. Yeah, Lisa.
Have you seen any success with an upgrade on the thank you page? And is there any way to transition a one-time gift to a first of a monthly gift?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And Ben said he'll be right back to answer really technical questions about how to do it in EN. But where we've seen success is not on the thank you page of the donation form, but on interrupting that one-time gift process. So I'm sure everybody's nodding that sustainer invite upsell light box, where you've filled out all the information to make the one-time gift. You hit donate, make my gift, process, whatever the button says, and before it processes, a light box comes up that divides that one-time gift into a monthly gift. So usually, you can set that denominator, whatever you want it to be. 10 is a really common denominator for making that one-time gift into a palatable monthly gift. You still typically upgrade them at that point too. So you're turning a $60 gift into, $5 a month or $10 a month. That has upgraded that overall giving. And then you have a yes and a no button right there on that light box. We see about a 4% conversion rate to sustainer giving from those light boxes. And if they hit no, the one-time gift still processes. So you have very little churn right then and there, unless somebody X's out of their browser completely and they're like, that doesn't usually happen. So I haven't done a lot of testing of it on the thank you page. We're currently building some customized confirmation pages for a couple clients that have like carousel widgets in them, not automated as in like hero tile carousel, but like these little 2 to 3 widgets in the thank you page where you can actually swap in kind of next action asks. So sometimes it'll be advocacy, sometimes it'll be peer-to-peer, sometimes it will be just passive promotion of monthly giving. But I don't expect that to really be a big winner for sustainer inviting. Good timing, Ben.
Thank you.
As to like using the one-time gift as the first gift, the first installment of a monthly gift or a reoccurring gift program, I'd love to you to speak to whether that's possible in engaging networks. My developers have done that in a very hacky way in other systems.
Okay.
But it's something that I've seen. I know the Union of Concerned Scientists does as part of their upsell light box, and so it is something that I think is really exciting to test. Do you
Can I
know?
get a
So if you make a one-time gift,
yes.
And then like you get that sustainer upsell light box or something,
Sure.
is there a way to make that one-time gift, but then also have part of that one-time gift become the first installment of your reoccurring gift moving forward?
So just think about the way that our data tables are written. What would happen is the person has been charged, right? The credit card has been swiped. We've processed it as an FCS transaction. Sorry, this is just me thinking out loud.
Yeah.
So that's been charged as an FCS transaction, and then they get the upsell opportunity would then come through it would definitely come through as a second transaction because we don't go back and edit that original one. Although if we save the transactional details, so if we like saved everything and like passed it on and kept it in the same session, it could overwrite it, but that person would still get charged the first time and the second time. But if the second time was only just like an increase to add on to the recurring gift, that could work out. We can definitely overwrite a transaction. It's almost like it's a hack around. Like it's not like a, but there's ways because we store that session value. So there are ways to do that. It would just be a matter of seeing if it writes the first transaction, do we overwrite the original one? Is there a, does the credit card immediately charge, or does it wait a moment to see if
Right.
the second one can come through? So there may be ways to kind of like shift around in the system, but that would definitely be something that we'd bring in, like Dan even maybe, to like talk about, to make sure that, because what we don't want to ever do is we don't want to do things that are going to break in a year because we like fixed it.
Undocumented features.
Right, exactly. Like we fixed that thing. So, Seth, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think through this as well. Like, right, what you're talking about with the upsell light box, that pauses that
Everything,
gift
yeah.
from processing.
That would be the thing, yeah. If it paused it,
So
then
if
it's
you
totally different.
right, and then if somehow, I mean, basically the code on the back is just to change it from single to recurring.
Right. Yeah. Well, and
But it
it's
should be possible.
I think.
Sure, if you
oh,
paused
go
it. I
ahead.
wasn't even thinking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was gonna say, we're actually doing this right now. It's
Oh, nice.
called, and we're implementing it, and it's a light box. And the functionality is it kind of pauses your one time, and it gives you two options. Either you keep the one time, or you change your one time and turn it into a monthly. So
Yeah.
one-time type of process. We're trying to grapple with what it, we don't want to interrupt and give people the opportunity to cancel altogether.
Right.
We're trying to make it to where the only way that you cancel is if you just completely abandon the page.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have to either click yes, one time confirm, or no, change to monthly starting now.
Right. Which is a little bit different than what Lisa had asked
What I
about.
was thinking is, if you go through with a one-time gift on a thank you page, did you know that a recurring gift has X times more
Value,
of,
yeah.
of an impact? Say, yes, make this a recurring gift. Could you like schedule another donation? Could you turn it into a monthly?
It's almost
gift?
like a pledge or an
Is that through the
installment
hub?
program.
So that, yeah,
Yeah.
that might be interesting if you're able to, like, make that change happen. I mean, Farhad's here. I can just ask him afterwards. That's something that, I mean, right? That's the nice thing about the conference, right? Is
Yeah.
that like we're all here. Like, so that's a little bit quick. Yeah. So I like the idea. There's probably a way to do it. I know our transactional tables can be pretty. We like that they're not editable and can't do a whole lot. And so I'm just not sure if we've already written the transaction row if we're able to make a change to it. That's the thing to find out essentially.
Right.
But it's not making a change to it, right? Because they're still processing that first gift. It's just saying, hey, start a monthly gift in a month.
Right, I just need to make it an FCR. It has to be tokenized. Like that process has to happen.
Right.
Like that's the issue. And so the FCS has to become an FCR, and then we have to tokenize the credit card information that we no longer have.
Right, 'cause it
So-
just went through.
Right, so it's
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. It's like when do we grab all of it to make it into a tokenized thing?
Right.
I was titillated by the idea of a 48-hour conversion to sustainer, and I was like, but what about a
2 minute, yeah. Well, and that's where that sustainer upsell light box that you're testing with the yes and the no is really changing that, because that's gives you that second opportunity to make a more robust case for giving for monthly giving, right? So yes, I already got you convinced that like the why us and the why right now, but like, did you know your impact could go so much further by becoming a sustainer? And that light box gives you just a little bit more real estate when they're in that feel good time period. Yeah. Yeah, Rachel.
So I've done in a new member welcome series, automating an email to push for sustainers. However, I haven't, and then I've done with people who have made 2 gifts in a certain time frame,
Yep.
pushing for sustainers, but I haven't done automated for just a regular 30-day gift.
Yeah.
giver. Are you guys doing that where are you adding like suppressions and logic, or is it really just like any appeal gift would get that?
So it depends on the organization. Yeah, we definitely have seen it where your first gift doesn't trigger the sustainer invite because you're going into if your first gift is also your creation date, right? So you're a new person, you're going into that welcome series. So we have those suppressions and the logic in place so that you're not getting the triggered sustainer invite as a recent donor. And then yeah, you have that separate recent donor profile with that is built on those using the triggers to do the sustainer invite, like 2-part series that can be anywhere from that 48-hour time window to up to that 30-day window, encouraging people to become sustainers. And you're suppressing out, like I said, the new people. You can also suppress out people at certain gift levels, right? So if you really are focusing on a lower dollar sustainer program, You don't want to ask a $500 person to become a $10 a month sustainer type of thing. But I'm a big fan of high dollar sustainer programs too. And depending on the vertical, $30 a month is not uncommon. So that's a pretty big gift on the annual side. Yeah.
Can you use conditional content fields in the triggered emails?
Yeah, so conditional content's available in marketing automation.
Sure.
Yep, totally. You just have to have those profiles built so they know what to pull from. Yeah. No, and I think the more you can personalize it, right? Air quotes personalization, but because so that it is relevant and timely to them as a reader, the higher that open and conversion rate is going to be. And I think that's the hard thing about doing an annual sustainer invite or kind of these batch uploads. Like, you guys, if you were in the keynote this morning, heard me talking about the one client that we did monthly batches. That can be really hard because it has like very little relevance to them, and it's like out of the blue. Why am I getting this other thing when I'm also in stream in this campaign? So I think that using conditional content, whether it's automated or not, is always going to help you. Because if you're doing, like, let's say your campaign is mainly a one-time gift campaign, but you have a specific segment that you want to do a sustainer invite for, so your recent donors, or even your lapsed people, doing a sustainer invite to them might just be more appealing than a one-time gift ask. Crafting a version of your standard appeal using sustainer invite language and making that case for sustained giving through conditional content is a really great way to do that too. What are other people trying? It's a lag after lunch.
We just did a big EFT conversion campaign.
Oh, cool. How'd you do that?
It was a dedicated period of time right before we were going to have a big pledge drive, and we did spots, and we're able to do this because we're a TV station, but spots on the radio and on the TV, and then dedicated emails, and we had a dedicated graphic about making the switch to EFT, and compared to just kind of one-off emails that we have sent after year-end, Giving Tuesday, for the conversion pitch, it did so much better. We ended up with 200 EFT conversions total, whereas previous efforts we would get maybe 30. So I think.
So were you talking to current sustainers, credit card sustainers, and getting them to convert?
And then we also emailed our EFT sustainers asking for an upgrade,
Nice.
and then we just tried to convert lapsed donors and then existing one-time donors to become sustainers. But the real campaign was about converting to EFT, and that's really the people who responded to it. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was really successful for us.
So
we're gonna do
audio
it.
spots, TV spots.
Which you can't all do that.
I know,
But
it's
we had
amazing. No, I love
we
it,
had
though.
the Lightbox
Emails,
We had a big
Lightbox.
graphic on the website,
Yeah.
and then we had a dedicated graphic that was consistent from the website to the email to the donation form.
Nice.
And then we sent, I think, only 2 emails total. to
Okay.
everybody. Yeah, but it was really effective. So I would say like a graphic that really explains what the importance of it is and why it's easy and why it's good for the organization really helped.
Yeah.
'Cause that was what we were missing, I think, from our other efforts that didn't perform as well. And we also had a match attached to it. So.
Matches
Yeah.
always help.
Here,
Yeah.
I can show it to you.
You had a match with it?
Yeah, I think it was a $10,000 match for everybody, up to $100 per donor for everybody who converted.
That's really good.
Did anybody have any like security concerns about it?
So we listened to a lot of our donor calls before we ran the campaign, and a couple of them didn't want to give out their information because of that. So
A lot of them are older too.
yeah, and it's hard to address that without saying credit cards are more
Less
dangerous.
safe.
you
Yeah.
know, less dangerous. So we
Or they're like, oh shit.
Yeah, so we actually avoided saying that it was more secure because
Yeah.
then a follow-up question could have easily been, then why should I give you my credit card?
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Why she's pulling that up, has anyone defaulted
Yes.
Yeah, she is.
to
My-
EFT on the page?
My colleague sent me your EFT email last week.
Oh,
or 2
awesome.
weeks ago. Yeah, we really liked it.
I'm trying to find
Yeah, is anybody doing that?
Yeah, is anyone defaulting to EFT when someone clicks recurring?
So
We do.
HRC, I will say this at 2:45, we tested it, we are doing it, it won. It didn't
Nice.
show a drop off for sustainers by pre-landing on EFT, and in fact, then you got more EFT donors. So we did test it first, and that is what won.
That's great. So same amount of sustainers overall, but then a higher proportion of EFT
Yes,
than you
exactly.
would have gotten by defaulting to credit card.
That's cool.
That is very cool. I think that's something that's really important where you're thinking about testing too, making sure you know how you measure success, because you might not have gotten more sustainers overall, and somebody would have been like, oh, this lost, we should just stick with the control.
Yeah.
But when you actually identify what that goal is, up front, it'll allow you to really kind of make those more nuanced decisions, which can make a really big difference, especially in sustainer acquisition, because it is a game of inches. You're getting a few people. It's not huge quantities.
Yeah. I don't know
This.
how I can show this to evererody, but we just had a
Yeah.
GIF graphic with a light
Okay.
bulb. Yeah.
Make the switch. That's so cute. You're lighting a switch.
That's really cool.
That's very cute.
Walk this around.
Yeah. I was picturing like an infographic explaining EFT,
Yeah.
and I was like, how did you do this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Infographic, people, they're helpful, but sometimes people get a little,
Yeah.
it's like that gut response that you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but that's very cute.
With HRC, I went to one of the sessions, I forget which conference, it was on sustainer retention. And if people's credit cards would expire and they'd apologize profusely for
Oh.
letting it expire.
Yeah.
Because they're in love with HRC, but their community support is so clear.
Yeah.
And so I think what I struggle with considering for so many clients is like, it's not just easy and like convenient and the best way to support the organization. It's like, say exactly
Right.
how a monthly gift makes a difference for your organization.
Yeah. Well, and just and why that ongoing support is needed for your organization, because yeah, it's green, it's efficient, it's easy, is not why your supporters are going to choose you to be a sustainer with. Like that was not proper English. Yeah, like I constantly push back on our writers as well, where they're prioritizing that like efficiency model. And it's not that. That's not a case for giving to you specifically. That's like swap out client name A and put in client name B. Like it doesn't matter. And unless you're an enviro that really is going to be cutting back on your paper because someone becomes a sustainer, don't talk about that at all. And unless you like as an organization wholly believe in no direct mail or cutting back on paper, don't promise that, because direct mail is really lucrative. Like doesn't matter. And your multi-channel donors are going to be your best donors. So don't hamstring yourself by making those promises when it wasn't solicited. Right? If they email you back and say, hey, could you not mail me now that I'm a sustainer? Sure, acknowledge that. Do what they want, but don't do it on your own.
When you updated the payment method, how did you do that? Like, did you have people?
How did
so
people
we
switch?
used-
Oh, yeah.
This was, well, it was partially manual just to make sure, because we process our payments outside of Engaging Networks. So this was a
Good work.
test for us,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, so it ended up going pretty smoothly, though. It just changes the date of their gift. And we just made sure that they knew that they were gonna be charged immediately on making the switch rather than on their recurring gift date. So just updated the date of their recurring gift, and it charged them immediately. So we just wanted to be clear that they knew that that's what was happening.
And then you
Right.
made it as a one-time gift or as a new recurring gift?
A new recurring gift, yes.
And then you canceled the old one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
wait,
it
right.
automatically canceled the existing pledge and created a new one that charged at the time they submitted the form on EFT as the payment method as opposed to. So it's not changing the payment method on an existing pledge, it's canceling one starting in the second one.
Right.
And they're FURs then?
Yeah,
FURs, okay. So yeah, so in Engaging Networks, you have FCRs, which are managed by Engaging Networks, and you have FURs, which are not managed by Engaging Networks. So those two options for recurring. And so Roy, these are Roy clients here that are talking. Roy has some nice tools that allows you to, especially if you have a pretty big, like you guys do, offline recurring, you may want to have all of your recurring kind of happening in one central location that you can manage. So that's why they're kind of like leveraging Roy's ability to kind of do that Roy has an updater as well, I think, an
Yeah,
updater
upgrade,
that kind of works like Engage Networks Hub. So, but yeah, that's kind of just so everyone's on the same page what they were kind of talking about. They have that kind of option.
We are switching to EN now, so.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Would you just use the hub then if you wanted to do that without making a new?
Yep. Yeah, you just use the hub. So.
Yeah, and I know you actually, Gabby, you talked about this a little bit yesterday, that
Yeah.
you're testing the hub and how people can update their current reoccurring versus,
We're trying to get
starting a new one.
Yeah.
If you haven't played around with the hub at all, in terms of sustainers, this is a sustainer session, there is an ability where people are able to manage their recurring gifts. And you can do two things. You can do three things. If they're a single donor, you can have an upsell opportunity in the hub to upsell them to become a recurring donor. If they're already a recurring donor, you can ask them to increase their gift or change their credit card expert information. Or if they're a recurring donor above X amount of dollars, you can not present them with an upsell, because if they're giving you $50 a month,
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
You may not want to be like, hey, do you want to go up to 75? Like that may not look like the right thing. But every organization, like as Brennan was saying earlier, through testing, you know what your donors want. Like we can kind of give you tools and best practices, but you need to test a little bit and know that maybe for you guys, for public radio, it might be a little bit higher than it might be for HRC in terms of what their level is, willing to like upsell like a recurring donor. So just knowing those kind of things makes a difference.
Definitely.
And so I'm glad that you guys are testing it, because we really needed a client to get in there and test it.
Well, and you can also turn off the ability to cancel and just say like call if you want to cancel.
Correct.
Because some of our
Yeah.
some of our team members were worried about giving people the opportunity to manage their monthly gifts.
Yes.
Like that. So
Yes.
that was a good feature as well.
Yeah, so you can turn off the cancel button
Yes.
to cancel your recurring donor.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, I think a lot of people are very scared about giving supporters the opportunity to manage their own donation, because everybody's like, oh my God, everybody's going to cancel. If you're stewarding these people correctly,
Right.
they're not going to cancel. But there's definitely no harm in layering in another channel and inbound calling. Like
Right.
if somebody who's willing to pick up the phone and call your organization is insanely committed to you. And even like having your reception, your member services, whoever it is that's answering that phone, be educated about sustainer giving, being able to make that case for giving. Like you can turn even the angriest call into a fantastic touch point that builds loyalty and increases retention. So I definitely encourage everybody to have an inbound phone number on their website available specifically for sustainer giving, manned by somebody, womaned by somebody who knows how to answer those questions appropriately. Because just like everybody always used to say telemarketing is the best way to get sustainers, it's because you're having that conversation. And that can be hard to make somebody understand it, though I think it's obviously more common now with like the Netflixication of our lives where everything is auto-deducted. But like it's so helpful to still have that option for people who want to call.
Because we have it just in like the contact us, but I'm now that you're saying that, I wonder if we should.
I mean, I think it's helpful, and especially if your form is mobile friendly, right? Having a click to call option, right there, is good. I mean, it's something again to test. The kind of industry standard thinking historically is as few navigational links away from the donation process as possible. But I work with organizations that have maintain the full nav when it's their main donation form, and they've tried to test into a quote unquote capture page with stripped down navigation, and it never wins. And I think it is that it's going to be different from every organization, and something that is still conversion focused, like an inbound phone number, is worth testing. Definitely, would be very, very helpful. And sustainers are such a good program that you can really start grooming and treating it almost like a mid-level program too, because you're talking about $100 a year plus 9 times out of 10. And so if you do have the ability to earmark off a portion of somebody's job description to really focus on stewarding sustainers, setting up the marketing automation flows, the triggered emails, dealing with those almost to declined or post-declined credit cards afterwards, as well as upgrades. And you can attach a person's name to those invites and really start grooming them to expect communications from a specific person. it really goes so far in helping grow that program too, because again, donors just want to feel special. They want to know that we know who they are, that they're not a faceless ATM in the crowd. And when you're giving that much on an annual basis, I think that it does definitely help. And you don't have to have a whole 40-hour full-time FTE, for that's just doing that. But crafting that persona for one of your staff persons is going to be really, really beneficial.
And if that's the person, sending the emails, making the calls, writing a note card, then people would start to be like, oh, it's Ben. Like, Ben's the person who's emailing me. And, like, those will eventually have higher open rates more than likely. People will answer that phone call. Like, they'll just get used to those kind of things because it's somebody who's directly responsible. Even if you only have, 83 sustainers. Like, that's pretty manageable over the course of an entire year.
Yeah.
For your person to, like, call those people and, like, say thanks, that kind of thing. It's just going to add in so much more. And then ideally, as you grow that program, then you could grow that position as well. That'd be the whole idea behind it.
Exactly. Yeah. I know quite a few organizations that will literally build staffing plans around their sustainer growth projections. So that they are, kind of building that business plan and around budgeting season, knowing what they want to accomplish next year. And you're always, with sustainer budgeting, you should always be forecasting lifetime value. Or at least annual value, not just that upfront first gift. So knowing how long they're going to stay on the file and looking at your own data too, and being able to make those calculations is really important, because your CFO or whoever's approving the budgets should not be thinking about that upfront cash flow, especially if you hadn't done a lot of sustainer acquisition in the past. That will change pretty significantly from that one-time gift revenue to a sustainer, less than 12 months on file, because not everybody's going to join in the first month of your fiscal year. So thinking about that lifetime value in your projections is really, really important. Yeah.
I'm curious, do most organizations set like a minimum monthly amount that they will take, or are you willing to take any amount, or just kind of curious as to how people go about that process?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's $5.
Yeah, 5 is pretty common. I think I've seen 3. I don't know if you guys even have like a floor from a processing standpoint.
I think it might be $1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, for the most part, I don't see a lot of people putting validators on their donation amounts. So if someone typed in 1 to the other amount and had it set as recurring, it would probably go through. Unless you were setting up something like on your end, or your payment gateway had like some fraud detection or something like that.
Right.
I mean, I will say, I don't know how many of you are familiar with, there's this website called Patreon, and it's where people support artists and creatives that are like doing projects. A lot of people pledge it like $1, like for that kind of things. A lot of younger people are doing that.
Yeah.
And so that may be just be one thing to think about as you think about growing sustainers. If you can bring in people in like their early 20s, like they might not be able to do $5. I mean, $60 a year is a lot if you're, in college or you're just out of high school, that kind of thing. But, $1 or $2 a month or something like that. Or, if you're, in Engaging Networks, as long as your payment gateway allows it, you could do quarterly, or you could do, so some of those type of things, it might be easy to get like, yeah, how about $5, once a quarter? That might be something that's a little bit more digestible for someone, especially in like the younger demographics. And if you're kind of trying to target some of those people, because eventually, they're going to make enough to give $5 a month and then give $10 a month and kind of be a part. So if you can loop them in early when they're, 16, 17, 18, have their first job, $5 a quarter might be something that's more realistic out of someone like that.
Yeah.
So just kind of something to think about when you think about what a minimum might be.
Yeah, I think I love not having to restrict it to just monthly too. The other types of payment periods.
I was gonna ask that. I want to know if anyone is doing annual.
Yeah.
I'll be talking a lot about that.
Yeah, I know HRC does it. Yeah.
In what session will you talk about this?
The HRC monthly.
Oh.
In
And then
245.
It'll be like solid 15 minutes.
We just started testing annual too at Oceana during we do quarterly membership campaigns. So that's
Yeah, I've seen the most success is with true membership organizations, because it is your automatic annual renewal. And yeah, it is more, that I feel like is more of a set it and forget it kind of thing, because it's just your annual renewal. It needs to happen anyways. And instead of us sending you to the R1 and you responding, like, it's just going to go. I know we saw for our clients, we didn't hold those people out of special appeals. right?
Yeah.
Whereas with maybe monthly sustainers, you would more. Still do send your sustainers the important stuff. They want to hear from you. Don't put them into a suppression forever. But yeah, with the automatic annual renewals, like I think the suppressions tends to be less because it is just that it's very transactional. This is my membership renewal once a year, and then everything else is separate from that conceptually. Yeah.
And I'll hop on the sustainer suppression thing and just say that's again another opportunity. If you have someone who's even partially dedicated to like that program,
Yeah.
if they're talking to those people, like I know, like I'm a sustainer for a couple organizations, and I know that like there are certain ones that I still want to get the appeals from, and there are others that I no longer want to get the appeals from. And I would love if someone's like reaching out to me and like finding out if I still want to receive emails, like yeah, because I might give a one-off like to this particular one, or I might not because I'm just a recurring donor.
Right.
But it's an opportunity, it's a touch point, it's a time that you can pick up a phone, call. I mean, my background's in major gifts, so I like picking up the phone and calling. You may not like that. That may not be like your thing you enjoy doing is picking up the phone and calling.
You could text them though.
Yeah.
Build in a mobile program.
You can email them. Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do where you can get more soft touches in
Yeah.
with this group that, you know, and eventually, you know, I really see a lot of those people as becoming your mid-level donors.
They are.
Which a
Yeah.
lot of organizations, that is their number one weakness. They have annual, they get it, they get how to do major gifts. Mid-level, they're just like, there are people who just give us like $300 a year. Like, I don't know what we're gonna do with those people, you know. I guess they're like a good annual donor. And it's like, they're probably not. Like, that's a lot of money to give to somebody. So, you know, when you're thinking about your sustainers, thinking about how do they fit into your mid-level giving, like, structure that can really start to like blossom out. And those are people that are gonna bridge up, you know, into major gifts at some point. You know, those people are gonna start making those moves. So kind of who are those people?
Or planned giving at the later on, right? Like that's. I think if you don't have a major or a mid-level giving program, use your sustainer program as that architecture, because like you guys are probably very familiar with there was a report that came out a couple years ago that was like the forgotten donor, and it was all about this mid-level gap, and I think with the popularity of sustainer programs over the last few years, it is a really great area to focus and like use as a placeholder for mid-level. And then once you have a structure in place for how you're stewarding and retaining sustainers through multi-channel touch points, and then you can also branch that out to those one-time donors who are at that same annual giving level, so that you're getting that nice supporter outreach across the board. But yeah, a lot of people just forgot about it, and it's sad. It's very sad. So, does anybody feel like they have a robust sustainer program? So everybody's just kind of starting out, or public broadcasting.
We're in
Yeah,
the middle. Like,
I'm in the middle.
Yeah, we've definitely done a lot of growth, but we haven't done enough of the like targeted, I guess, you know, the stewardship.
Yeah.
So that's what our capacity has increased. So after the end
Congrats.
of the year, we're kind of just have to get through the end of year, and we actually do also a monthly. We're actually on a different platform right now, where we're looking to switch to engaging networks, and we do a monthly donor specific Facebook ad that we run at a really low level, kind of with the biggest thing people donate to with us are orangutans, so we go with that, and that's brought in really because that's been really good for us because you can run it really low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is anybody doing any sustainer advertising? Invite advertising? Yeah. I definitely recommend the Facebook ads.
Oh, Rainforest Action Network?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Orangutans down there.
Yeah, Rainforest Action Network.
And I saw this wouldn't really affect engaging networks as much, except maybe through the tracking, but I did see that on one of the pages I manage as a volunteer, they added Facebook finally added a monthly selection to donating that way, but I'm not sure. I think it's only been implemented on certain ones. And
that's not rolled out yet.
Yeah, and then you lose all the data and stuff. But
you lose all the data.
Yeah.
I don't want to get stuck on them. But.
So I definitely recommend leveraging Facebook for advertising.
Yeah, we send
100%.
We send to our own.
Yes, it is like most nonprofits that are doing advertising or digital acquisition campaigns are using Facebook, and because it is a very high return on investment with no minimum spend. Right, you can set the thresholds to be as low as you want. So if you want to just throw up a $50 test, you can throw up a $50 test. You probably won't get significance until you're spending closer to 1,000 or so, depending on what your conversion tracking is or metrics that you're looking for are. but it is, you can do like a nice slow burn, set it and forget it, sustainer invite advertising campaign through Facebook, and which is fantastic for brand building too. So if you think about sustainers being a pretty high bar ask to make, I know a lot of organizations, especially historically, hadn't been wanting to make that ask of somebody who hadn't made a one-time gift before, right? It was always like, you have to ask them out on a date before you can ask them to marry you. You don't, obviously, anymore. Like Sarah McLachlan has taught us anything. It is that people will make that sustainer gift right from the very beginning. But like, it is a great way to just get that program in front of people, especially if it's a branded program, to kind of just put it in their mind, right? Because we know it takes 15 to 17 touches for any sort of digital media to even be remembered, for a supporter to acknowledge that they saw it. It used to be, old advertising adage was like 12 to 14. That has now increased because everybody is bombarded with media so much every single day. So if you have a little bit of budget, I think social advertising and search advertising are those two parts of the funnel that will give you the highest return when it comes to acquisition of sustainers. Because that social, you can be very targeted. You can target your house file activists. You can target interest-based prospecting on Facebook itself. Anything that you've told Facebook can now be used to target you later by somebody else. And you can, which is kind of like both top of the funnel and bottom of the funnel, depending on how you're using those custom audience targeting. And then of course search. So if somebody sees a TV spot or sees just an organic Facebook post or an Instagram story from a recent event, they go back and they search you. You need to make sure that both your SEO and your paid search isn't just directing people to the homepage. You want to give them a guided path that again kind of builds out that impact story, that case for giving, specifically for monthly giving. And you will see conversions there, definitely.
We're all gonna be getting a text message from.
Oh, yeah.
I know, I knew that was going to, it's like 2:18. It's going to be right in the middle of the session.
Landing pages and monthly only versus giving an option.
Like the multi-ask, yeah. I think it's something, obviously test. Again, I'm a big fan of the multi-ask defaulting to monthly, especially for any sort of paid acquisition. In our testing, we've seen that sustainer ads will often drive more one-time gifts than one-time gift ads drive, but at a lower average gift. And I hypothesize that it's because when they click on that ad and they get to the sustainer defaulted form, you're priming them with a lower ask array, because typically your monthly gift ask array is smaller dollar amounts than your one-time gift ask array. Using those field dependencies to change what people are displaying when they get there. So that then if they do click over and say, no, I really want to make a one-time gift now, they've been primed with that lower ask amount and they change it. But we have definitely seen that like the quantity of giving overall increases when you have both sustainer and one-time on the same form. I know there are some organizations and some of my clients as well that on the website, if you click, their giving page and then there's a menu of different ways to give and you click monthly giving, that's a sustainer only form. But when we're linking from ads or social media posts or something like that, we default to the multi-ask.
What about for sustainer invites?
Sustainer invite emails, usually one time or the monthly only, just because you're focused really on that one case. But I have some clients too that just always have the multi, and they haven't, because it's the default kind of out of the box option and they haven't stripped it out. But yeah, I think if you're being very specific about what you want, and email you have a larger piece of landscape to build the case, then yeah, you can definitely do that.
Would you have a link off of that landing page to one that had a multi-select on it? Or what would you do?
We don't.
Yeah.
You don't? I'm just wondering, like if I'm on there, I'm like, I don't want to. I wish I could give single and I can't.
Right. There's always
It's always right.
There's always somebody who's like, I don't like this way this one is here. But generally, like I said earlier this morning, I was like, form drift is real, right? Because like people don't just use the form that you direct them to in this very specific appeal. Somehow they navigate back to your homepage and then they get over somewhere else, and like, yeah, it's crazy to look at that through like UTM codes or the tracking codes to like see where people end up. It's hilarious. I have done, especially incentive buys with like partners like MyPoints or eMiles. That's how they do it. And all of that is anybody familiar with those incentive partners? Little bit. They're not dead. They're real.
No, emails is not.
eMiles is closed, yeah. MyPoints, Swagbucks, like all of there's a bunch of other ones, right? So do these things online, take these surveys, these questionnaires, these quizzes, donate, you get points that you can then use for shopping online. So they will do it, they set it up that way. So the ask is the monthly ask, but then there is a text-based hyperlink that takes you to a separate form that is a one-time form. They do not like to show the multi-ask at the same time, yeah. So, and I think a lot of organizations used to do that where it'd be two separate forms. Just when the user experience wasn't as good for the multi-ask. And now I think the UX is much cleaner on that. So it kind of precludes the need for two different forms. Yeah, there. But, you know, still something with testing. Especially if you have like a really cool design that you want to try out that might look a little more cluttered by having a multi-ask toggle, then worth trying, definitely. Any other kind of, what are some pain points that people are having in their sustainer program? What do you feel like is holding you back from growing?
I would say one thing that we haven't tackled would be, and I think we have a new digital director, so I'm sure it'll be solved, but just as where I am now, it's knowing like when and how to include them on additional asks. So right now, previously we included them on every ask, and now we're excluding them on every ask. But I know we're gonna think about it, but I definitely would like to hear if anybody has like a certain like formula or process that's working for that.
Who doesn't love a formula? Yeah. Does anybody have thoughts
I mean,
around
nothing
like
I wanna
what are you
share.
guys? Yeah. What are you doing? Are you including sustainers? How often are you including sustainers in other appeals?
We include sustainers on all of our fundraising emails, but our messaging is specific to asking for a one-time donation. And then if we see that our sustainers really just aren't engaging much with our specific fundraising campaign, we'll stop. And
take them out.
In your copy, do you thank them for being a recurring donor usually?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
We do.
Don't remind
Yeah.
them.
You do.
Remind them. Yeah, we don't like to remind them.
Oh, it's real. Oh, that's the reason
Yeah.
for it. Okay.
Oh.
It's on. Okay.
Yeah.
No, we always acknowledge
There
it.
it is.
There it is.
Thanks, President.
Acknowledge it.
No.
Yeah. You can dismiss it.
Ugh.
Where did it go? Oh.
And is that
Disruptive.
Gearing up for when something. It's not fake, it is a test.
That was a test. It was a real test. No national emergency. Okay. Well, nothing that wasn't here this morning.
Text message.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, how do we get that list?
What were you going to say,
so?
Gabby,
Yeah,
about
just
yours?
I wanted to follow up on that.
Oh, yeah.
Is that did you do some testing and found that people were canceling out of it, or just kind of? I'm just wondering.
We haven't done any testing on it since I started, but that's just kind of been our tried and true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know I like, as a recurring donor, I like when it says like thank you for your continued support, or
Thank you
for
that you do.
right, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Maybe not specifically like thank you for being a recurring donor on campaign 743. Like you're not.
Like thank you. We do use messaging that's like we're calling on our strongest supporters like you that are always with
Great.
us to
Yeah.
step up today.
Okay.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
But we're not like
specific.
naming
hey,
that.
since you're a recurring donor,
Since you
like
came
you
to us
really
every
need to make a
month.
one-time donation.
Okay.
Right.
We don't call it out.
No, and I think that makes sense. Unless again it's like a branded program, and you're saying thank you for being part of the as a member of the President's Circle, like
Right.
Yes.
we're calling on you. I think
And that's really, I would say that's maybe an area where we're struggling a little bit, is like trying to brand our sustainers with a name and really brand them and start them.
I think coming up with a circle is, that's what a lot of people I know look at the.
I mean, that's what I've seen is like
You guys talk loud enough for everybody.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
We're talking about branding, sustainer programs or giving levels, right? And like
Yeah.
kind of what I have seen in my experience is if you already have that brand, great, and if it resonates, but you don't have to create it. You know, if you're having
Yeah.
success already.
Yeah, I think again,
it's-
nobody's joined a sustainer program because of the
To
branding,
be a champion.
unless it's their name
Right.
on the program.
To be in Melinda's circle. Like, I
Right.
really want to be in Melinda's circle.
Yeah.
That's important.
Nobody's done that. Like
Back
it's
to like getting them to become mid-level donors too, that's part of it.
Yeah.
That's where I
Right.
think it makes a difference.
And
Yeah.
I think it's like the
So we
benefits,
can-
right, of like
yeah.
a teletown hall or whatever it is.
Right.
Exactly.
Or if an organization that has membership, we already had those levels as a like.
Yes.
And now they're built in.
right.
Right.
Because we
Yeah.
have membership, but we're still working to define.
Yeah. Well, and I think you were saying like the major gift for that's very common is to have
Sure.
those kind of the circles.
The
Yes.
circles and the leadership giving and that
Yes.
kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even for those mid-level people, and you may reach down into your upper level sustainers to kind of think about pulling some of those people into that level. Just you know, to say you're $500. If you're giving $500 a year via recurring gift,
However you do it.
via $1,000 as a one-time. I'd probably take the 500 every single time, right? So it's like, how are we stewarding that person? Are we stewarding them like they're an annual giver, or are we stewarding them like a leadership level? They probably should be stewarded as a leadership level because, like, I'll take 500 over 5 years versus maybe the $1,000 gift every year, right?
Right.
And so it's how do you start to like talk to those people like
Less
at that
reliable.
level? Yeah.
And Gabby, you were talking. What do you guys include sustainers?
We do, yeah. So we kind of have like campaigns like where we'll an urgent appeal where we'll shut down a dog meat farm. And there's usually like 4 appeals. We'll send them the first one, then we won't bug them after that.
Okay.
And we do thank them. We say thank you so much, but because this urgent thing, if you could give a special
Right.
extra
Yeah.
one-time gift, and they really do. Like they open better than any segment. So
Yeah.
you might as well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
We do the same.
Yeah.
We just like keep them out of those things.
Yeah, but it is an opportunity to thank them and just like keep them informed.
It's almost a soft touch point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though you're asking for money.
Yeah.
But it is
You
a
know.
campaign update, right?
Yeah,
it
it
is.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, you're demonstrating impact. This is like, we're actually doing this thing that you give us money to do.
Right.
Help us like finish this thing. Like,
Yeah.
we can like right now impact.
Right.
Yeah.
And then whether or not, we still give them special updates throughout the whole campaign as if, they are a donor, so they are a monthly donor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any thoughts around when to email sustainers or what you're doing, what you want to do, what people won't let you do?
And during disasters, like natural
Yes.
disasters, we do that.
Yeah.
I would say also that I definitely, and kind of maybe sounds like it, there's definitely the feeling of like when the sustainers do come in and become sustainers, it's like that feeling of like, we don't want to like touch them because we don't want them to go away. And
I'm like
that's
over,
what-
like I wholly recommend overly touching them.
That's what I
right?
yeah,
like
that's what I wanna do.
definitely.
I'm with Brenna on that. I'm a big fan. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, don't be awkward, but
I really need to show hands of who is like a really, like a.
aggressive
somebody else-
toucher. Oh,
Yeah.
don't say that. Don't say that. Yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, I mean, so does anybody have like thoughts around that? Like, how much are you talking to them versus the "don't wake the sleeping bear" old adage?
Could we give them the option? Like, how often do you
Yeah.
want to?
That's what I think is great. Yeah, that was my
Yeah.
thing on calling them and finding out, like,
Yeah.
how often do you want us to talk to you?
That's
Right.
I
You
like
know?
the call.
Surveys, how do you
Right.
like to talk, how do you want to hear
Yeah.
from us? I would be careful by saying how often do you want us to reach out to you, right? Because
hard, yeah.
that is it's really hard to build those buckets and then make sure that you're sticking to it just from a practical workload standpoint and like, oh, 1 email a month. Well, which one do we give them? Like it's
Right.
you're trying to automate, but now it's not. And also people don't know you necessarily that well yet. So you don't want to put too much control in their hands when it comes to making that choice on how much you want to hear from us.
Well, and what they say and how they behave is totally
Right.
Very
yeah.
true. People typically answer survey questions one way and then act and donate in other ways. So take that with a grain of salt. But it's really, I think if you can, and calling them up and having that conversation or doing peer-to-peer texting, so you're actually having a two-way conversation with them is a great way to just learn more about them and thus then tailor the communications toward that without explicitly promising a cadence or suppressions or anything like that. Yeah.
And in terms of texting, there are like programs where you don't have to use like your phones, like a computer program
Oh,
you're
yeah.
texting from, but it's the same number. Like Gabby logs in, it's the same number every time that she's sending from. So you're building that relationship with like the same kind of number, but it's not like your personal cell phone that you're texting from. So just I want to be clear on that. 'Cause I didn't know those programs existed.
Yeah, well, peer-to-peer texting too. It does come through a long phone, like a regular phone number instead of a short code, which broadcast texting uses. So technologically, it is a little bit different, and it's real. It is real people. Like we have a sister company called Fearless Mobile that leverages the Hustle platform, and if you're not familiar with Hustle, it is a peer-to-peer texting platform that was specifically developed around the elections for GOTV. But we've actually trained some of our best callers at different telemarketing centers to be those texters. So you don't have to worry about like finding and training volunteers or finding and designating staff. Like that is something that can be outsourced in a reliable way. And it isn't like a robot script. Like it's really funny whenever she shows the snippets of these conversations, people will be like, sorry, robot, can't give today, or whatever. And then the person replies back, hey, I'm not no computer here, and using emojis and things like that. And people have these great conversations because people are really surprised to talk to a real person. And it's much cheaper than like straight up telemarketing, but it does cost more than picking up the phone and calling them yourself.
Christian, you had a question?
I just was gonna say, I really like these folks at Donor Voice. I don't know if people are familiar with them, but they talked about improving retention by surveys in the Welcome Series, and that you don't actually have to ask the frequency of communication. If you ask their preferred channels, it had the same impact.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah, Google Donor Voice, it's a great company that puts out a lot of good content. They have a wonderful blog, and it's all about the kind of behavioral science behind charitable giving and how we all make decisions to make donations. And yeah, surveys, they do a lot of that. They propose a lot, they love the autoresponder surveys too. So again, that's a really important piece of real estate. So if you are sending out your sustainers a monthly tax receipt via email, it's another good soft touch point that you can actually leverage to gather more information from them or update them on campaign progress, and assure them that everything is right with their credit card still going through. I recommend that. Don't pretend it didn't go through. Don't pretend that they're not there. Yeah.
Lisa?
We're beginners, so I am nervous about asking questions. But that email you just talked about, giving them a receipt every month, or just thanking them every month, is that something that's automated, or is it?
Yeah, I would automate it.
I'd automate it.
Yeah, it is one of those things that it can be very transactionary, but I think you have the opportunity to go a step further and give them some valuable content or ask them for some information. So I wouldn't recommend doing the same email every month, right? But if you're setting up a marketing automation, they can only go through it once anyways. So clone it, make 12, so it is like this receipt, but each one has a little different of a content.
So have you seen, just out of curiosity, because we actually mail a tax receipt on an annual basis.
Oh, sure.
To donors, so I'm just curious to know if you've seen a difference between doing monthly versus annually.
I've never tested that. I think both are very helpful. So doing the monthly via email and then the annual via email and post is great. People do, especially if it is tax deductible, they really appreciate that at the end of the year.
Yeah, we are, and so we do the end of the year.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful.
And that's native in the platform.
Yeah, so,
even
well,
better.
we actually do it with physical mail, so.
Oh, no, there's a button you can click and then it'll download it, and you can then print off those PDF receipts. So it's all packaged in the platform. So
yeah.
Right? Do you guys send monthly tax receipts?
We do not. We just do one at the end of the year by mail.
Okay.
I think honestly the biggest reason is that we don't want to remind people that they're sustainers.
Okay.
The ones that they have forgotten.
Maybe WAMU does then.
Yes.
WAMU does.
They do.
Yeah.
Okay, because I know I subscribe to both
I
you
get
guys, so
monthly
I
ones
wasn't
from
sure which
Lawmill.
one of you did it.
Well,
So.
Yeah.
the other big difficulty with us is because because we do so much pledge programming, there's tax implications for premiums that people are taking, so we can't necessarily give them the tax deductible language.
That makes sense.
Each month.
Right.
That makes sense.
Right.
Okay.
Is WAM you doing it in advance of it processing or
After.
I think it's after.
So
Yeah.
I was at NTC this year. I don't know if you were in
Yep.
the session. And Habitat was talking about that they were going to move towards a pre-notification.
Oh, no, I didn't.
And they had not launched it yet, so they
Okay.
have no information about whether or not.
But it's an exciting thing, an idea.
Great
But
session. Great
Yeah.
session.
I was suspect of reminding people that their card was about to be charged. 'Cause
Yeah.
I do think it is different than, right, they were talking about it from like the Netflix subscription. But I
Right.
do think that there is a different implication around giving or,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
I am interested in next year's NTC.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
See what they say in
Feedback.
Portland.
That's like the best kind of session, right? Is when you set yourself up for next year's session right away. Like, okay, we got to come back next year and
I know.
talk
Right.
about it. So
Vote on this session.
yeah.